Welcome to My Take by RGV. Today we are going to delve into the details of horror genre made by RGV and his take on the evolution of horror as a genre in the Indian cinema. So Ramu, great to
Yeah,
have you on this. Horror has always been a fascinating domain and a genre for you.
yeah.
So your first three movies that were made before Raat were focused more on crime and the mafia.
Hmm.
So, what actually fascinated you about horror, and when did you really make a call to create a
Yeah.
movie around horror?
See, actually, the first film I wanted to make was Raat. I didn't come with the Shiva script. But at that point of time, because somewhere the studio felt that genre might not have enough takers in the audience and things like that, and the fact that they have an in-house hero, Nagarjuna, so they wanted me to write something for Nag, keeping Nag in mind as an actor. So, which is the reason I kind of postponed the making of Raat. But that was my pet project. When I came in, I used to go everywhere narrating the story of Raat, not Shiva. You know, I think the one reason is most of the directors, if you look at it, they're fascinated by, like, even Steven Spielberg's first film is a film called Something Evil. It's
Mhm.
like a TV film he made. This is horror genre. And so every director of any name you would see, he would touch that genre sometime or other. Like Francis Coppola made Bram Stoker's Dracula, and almost everyone, So the point is, horror, I think, directorially it requires what do you call the craftsmanship a horror film will require will be much more compared with any other genre. you know so I think because there is a psychological aspect to it, you're manipulating the audience and you're trying to play a game with them and to scare them just when they least expect it. So I think it's a lot of fun to make a horror film, I would think. Yeah.
So, mafia movies of yours were highly inspired by The Godfather. While you were a student, did you read any horror literature
I
or?
used to read quite a lot of horror fiction, yeah, but and I think, and as a film, probably the most influential film was The Exorcist, William Friedkin's film. And apart from that, I used to see quite like Doctor House of Horrors and most of the haunted films. These kind of films. I was a very very heavy horror film buff. Yeah,
Great. So, till you made Raat, the Indian horror has a very stereotypical image.
yeah.
Particularly, the 80s and 90s of horror was dominated by Ramsay brothers.
Hmm.
It was all about haunted houses,
Hmm.
spirits that were moving around with vengeance and ancient curses and stuff. And
Yeah.
when Raat came, it shook the world because it had no element of the stereotypical horror movie in it,
Yeah.
and yet it made an impact. So, what went into?
See, I would think, see, the Ramsay brothers film are leaning towards gore. I mean, there is like a lot of blood. There's a lot of, cutting and things like that, which kind of make you turn your face away. I mean, there are audience also for that. I'm not saying no, but for me, horror is always psychological. I mean, what you don't see scares you much more than you show a horrific image of someone. You know, if you look at The Exorcist, it's a nearly 2 hour 40-minute film, and all the horror scenes together, I don't think they will fill in 10 minutes also in the film. you know. But the fact, the believability of the happenings and the performances and the characters, and that is what which makes it so memorable. Why it stood the test of, I think, is must be nearly 50 years now by the time The Exorcist came. And similarly, quite a few, like the Paranormal Activity series, for example, The Conjuring.
Hmm.
I think they do a lot of mind play, you know, and a lot of people don't understand when you say that what is it exactly a mind play in a horror film, you know. See, for let's say, for example, see, scare isn't always in your mind; it's in your own imagination, you know. So you kind of prompt it to the audience to imagine something, so they're kind of primed up to feel the fear. The only thing is to do that when they least expect it. See, one is something where the horror keeps growing, you know, Another thing, when you least expect, you kind of do a jump scare and they jump out of the seat. So both of them have their own value. But the exorcist, especially, I think, is different because it seeps into you. It is you carry the fear back home. I never experienced anything like that in any film except for The Exorcist. Yeah.
I want to explore another aspect. You are an atheist. So, as an atheist, did you ever believe in the fear of ghosts and the evil? What actually goes into an atheist's
Yeah.
mind?
See, I would like to say, when I say I'm an atheist, I mean, I never said, see, I'm just like one of the trillions of creatures created by some force, even if you call it God for the matter, But the point is, I do not believe it makes a difference to God about us. That's what I believe. I don't think that, I give a sweeping statement that God is there or not there. Both of them are relevant to me because I don't think I fit in the scheme of things of God. That is how I look at it. Now, if the demon is the opposite of a God is a good force and who supposedly created everything, and demon is an evil force. Now it's interesting to see who created the demon. Why would the God create a demon, an opposed of him? Anyway, not getting into that, I feel hope is what creates God. We hope for something and we create God because when all else is not there, we can rely upon God. And similarly, fear creates the demon. Like fear of the unknown is actually the most scariest thing. So if something in the dark or you hear a sound, you don't know the source of that sound coming, and that is what scares you the most. I'll just give an example. So I was in this flat in Mumbai. I just moved just then, and I had this one servant boy who also sleeps in the kitchen area. Okay, now there is a bedroom, and then I come in. There's a living room, and there is a dining room, and there's a kitchen where he normally sleeps. Okay, so the first day per night, I woke up in the morning, and I switched off the AC, and I suddenly heard sound of feet going away from my door. So I thought it was my boy. Okay. So then I came out. He was not there. And then I walked into the kitchen. He was still sleeping. So I thought maybe there was another room adjacent. From that room he went, and I must have just heard the footsteps, is what I thought, And the second day again, I switched off the AC, and again I hear the sound of the feet going away. So this time I found it very, very uncanny, Then again I went in to see that guy still sleeping in the kitchen. So the third day, this time I went to the door and I switched off the AC, and I opened the door, and I heard the sound. And I braced myself, opened the door, and I ran into the kitchen, and he's still sleeping. I know it's impossible that can happen.
Right.
So the fourth day, what I did was, without switching off the AC, I came to the door and I suddenly opened it, and there was nobody. I went in. I went to the kitchen, he's still sleeping. I came back into the room, and then I switched off the AC. Again, I heard the sound.
So it was from the AC?
It is from the AC. When the AC kind of withdraws, that was matching to the sound of footsteps going away. So this whole experience, what was happening? Nothing, except for my mind is playing tricks on me.
So it's a psychological.
It is psychological, yeah. So if I'll tell you another thing. One of my most favorite shots of trying to explain the psychology. In Bhoot, there is a scene. Now, Urmila wakes up and there's no water, and a duplex apartment, and the camera is on the ground, and she comes down the stairs. It's a wide shot, and she goes into the kitchen, opens the door, has some water, comes back, and as she again gets up the stairs, I cut to top angle, and she's coming. Now, she can see in front of her, and the audience can see behind her.
Right.
So, there's nobody there. So, they feel almost like, first when she got up, because the film is called Bhoot, They're going they will expect something
Right.
to happen. Now, what did I do? I have a wide lens where everything can be seen. Everything can. So, their eyes will be darting this side, that side. No, nothing is there. They feel safe. Then Urmila is coming, so Urmila can see in the front, nothing in the back. They feel safe. Just when they think this is just a trick, there's nothing going to happen, she crosses the camera and we see the ghost down. In Eros theater, I saw the whole theater levitate with that shot. You know. So the point is, this is where the psychology comes in. If I'm going behind her with the camera, following her when she's going into the kitchen, because the audience's vision is limited, they can't see beyond. So they will expect something to come
Right.
into the. Suddenly, someone will jump into the frame and does something.
That's a typical horror.
Yeah, that's a typical horror thing. It always works also.
Right.
Whereas what I did, when a moment I took them, because I didn't want them to continuously feel the tension, so which they would have felt if the camera is going behind.
Right.
So I kind of did the trick and basically got them out of the thing that nothing is going to happen now. That is when that comes, they jump in. Yeah, this is what one example of how you use psychology in horror.
Right. But switching gears, did you ever hear about a paranormal story or activity, or did you have any personal experiences of paranormal activity?
See, like when the people, like you also asked me now, when do I believe in the paranormal or supernatural? I will give an example. I mean, I was always, not believing. In fact, in my childhood, I used to challenge to go into the graveyard that to prove that I am not scared, and these things also I used to do. But the three incidents which happened, which kind of changed my mind, not to push me towards the belief, but it's an interesting thing. One is Shamak Dawar is a choreographer. Okay. So I met him once in Amitabh Bachchan's house, only once. I've never worked with him. I'm not very familiar with him, I met him in the flight. So I was going to Chennai. He was on the same flight. So my seat was somewhere and he was sitting little in the back. And I went and sat next to him. So I, Shamak, and we started talking and the plane took off and in midair, this is in daylight midair, he suddenly asked me, your father passed away? So this is a very unusual question to ask out of the blue, which is the truth. Actually, 15 days before that, my father died. So I said, yeah. And now he's in the window seat, I was in the aisle seat. And he looked like that for some time and said, he's here with us. Wow. So for me, I was completely taken aback, So then what? And he's a choreographer. See, I can understand a question like that from some guy who's with a
Who
beard.
does clairvoyance or something.
Yeah. So he said, yeah. And then I thought, and I said, Shamak, I don't believe in this stuff, Again, he looked there and said, he says he also never believed. My father also was an atheist, So, and he says that he's very concerned about you, And I was see, for me, how does he know my father died? How does he know my father is an atheist? So I had a mixture of a helplessness, anger, fear. I was very disturbed with that conversation. I suddenly got up and I went off to my seat. And then I started thinking, how can you know? So the possibilities, So there's a 50-50. Either my father is dead or not. Either he's an atheist or not. So the odds are not so great that you cannot really, luck on it.
Right.
Or I thought I'm a little bit famous person. And it is possible he's also from the film industry.
Right. He would have read.
He might have overheard it and is playing this googly on something. So finally, by the time we reached the destination, I decided that he was either lucky or he somehow came to know. So that is what I call a rational explanation.
Right.
Okay. Now, the second is, years back, there was a sudden rumor that Ganpati was drinking milk.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I came back and my nephew came running and said, Uncle is drinking milk. I was scared. I didn't want to see that. Because I was hearing about it on the phone and everything. The point is, if I say that I don't believe in that, and if you say come into this room, the room is too close. You know,
It came.
if you say that it happened there or there, I can take it light. But if you say it's in this room, if I step into the door, I might be seeing a miracle, which I don't want to believe. It can happen. Luckily for me, it didn't happen. But what I can't ignore is the fear I felt in anticipation of seeing it. Okay. Third thing is when in my home, my sister and my mom, all of them, some relative's son who's 4 years old. My mother told me he can write an answer for anything. Whatever you ask, he will write an answer. He can't speak also. You know. Just to humor them, I asked this question 398 into 487. And he looked very normal. And his mother started goading him. See, uncle is asking something, and then she put some book or something and gave him a pen. And he's behaving like a kid only. And he just wrote the answer.
Wow.
Wrote the answer. He didn't calculate anything. I was so scared to see that. And my mother and sister are okay because they believe that he has some power. Right. See, believers, the advantage for believers is
they will
take
side.
it. Yeah, they will take it for granted. You know, right. Go, okay, he's got powers.
Right.
Some Kalki Murti or somebody has given him that powers. Now, a friend of mine was this. How can that happen? He said maybe the mother is manipulating, holding his elbow. Something he came. I said, it's a 3-digit multiple, triple-digit multiple. I don't think anybody can do that. I mean, you know. So, okay, over. Now, to sum up this whole thing, what if Shamak Dawar said something which only me and my father knows? Right. There I had an explanation, 50-50 chance he took, or maybe he came to know that he died or something. If he told me this is what he said apparently to you on that day, I would have been finished. I would have been in Tirupati and Vaishno. Yeah. Okay. And second, what if the Ganpati drank milk in front of me? What if I'm talking about?
But of course, there is a scientific explanation for that.
Okay, but the point is a capillary motion, all that we heard. But I'm saying that is not how it was described. It is not just a dip or something. Right. That's not how people told about their experiences, you know. Now, the third thing about this boy, I went to Bombay later and I was not able to believe, I was refusing to believe, though it happened in front of me. So I decided I must have dreamt.
An illusion.
Yeah. I must have dreamt about it. I'm thinking it's real, I thought. Now, only person who can tell me it's not a dream is my mother.
Right.
And my sister over there. I didn't ask them. For years I didn't ask. I kept it with myself. And then one day I asked them, did something like this happen? And she said, yeah, of course. And apparently that kid, now he's, you only had that power for about a few months apparently.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now he's finished, he's done his engineering and he's bad at maths, I believe. check this out. Yeah. So the point is, to answer your question, unless I experience.
Right.
See, when you don't experience, you can't make a statement that I believe or I don't believe.
Right.
So to be honest, I experienced this. Fine, fair enough. What is it? Because that cannot be explained through logic or science.
Right. Right.
So it is a supernatural phenomenon as far as I am concerned.
Right.
You know? Beyond this, maybe little bit remnants of this I never experienced. So to say whether I am scared of ghosts, you ask a question, I think I take it as a natural entity if it is there. You know. So there are so many things which can cause harm to me, out of which a demon. I don't think a demon can do something special. A dog also can bite you, a car can kill you, or something can happen. Likewise. But if you look at it, most of the time we never hear about demons killing people. Right. They only scare you.
Right. Right.
They always narrate a scary incident. Not about death and things like that. Mostly,
It doesn't go
you
to
know.
that extreme.
Yeah,
So you explored this angle in Funk, right?
yeah,
Where Sudeep Kicha is a
yeah,
hardcore
yeah, yeah,
atheist. He doesn't believe, but then he actually encounters it
yeah.
right within his family. I think that was very well articulated and
Mm,
explained. The shock treatment it gives you when your belief is shattered and when you encounter something that you firmly believe doesn't exist.
yeah. Mm,
Talking about the technology and the craft behind horror movies, uh, when you made Raat, the in Telugu the hero was
yeah.
Chinna. I don't remember who played that in Hindi. I think was it
You
Chinna?
know,
Yeah,
it was made in both languages with the same actors.
right,
Yeah.
right. So Revati was not the usual choice.
Hmm.
She was one of the glamorous heroines upcoming. What made you choose Revati for that?
See, one is because she's a terrific actress,
Hmm.
and I mean, I kind of met her when I worked as a kind of an assistant in a film called Rav,
Hmm.
So I met her on those sets, and that is when I narrated, and she was very excited about doing that role. So that's how it happened. Yeah,
Hmm. And again, Chinna doesn't have a significant role.
yeah,
He is more like a supporting actor. But I think the entire show was stolen by Om Puri,
yeah.
who was a part of Falak Numa. And it was
Correct, correct.
very. So tell us more about casting that went into Raat, if you remember.
I mean, I think beyond Revati and Akash Kurana, who
Hmm.
played the father, and of course Om Puri, I mean, I don't think much of it because they three were the principal
Right,
characters. Yeah.
right. So coming to the technology behind that, was flow cam around when you made Raat?
See, flow cam is an aspect, it is not a rig.
Okay,
The Raat was shot with the steady cam. So,
okay.
probably very heavily, I don't think the steady cam was used more extensively than in Raat.
Hmm.
Though I used it a little bit in Shiva, but
Hmm.
very extensively I used it in Raat.
Particularly when she lands in the village and the village is
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
empty,
correct, correct.
right?
Yeah.
So what is this technique called flow cam, and what's the difference between steady cam, which is a gear, versus
See,
this?
flow cam is just like a concept of making the camera, I mean, avoiding the trolley, like a track and trolley thing, where the camera is in a continuous motion of floating, you know. So I think it's just a label. It's
So there is
nothing much
no
to it. Yeah.
science or
No,
technology
no, no,
behind it.
no,
It's
nothing.
basically someone carrying the camera and following the subject.
Yeah, yeah.
So it gives you that shake and the natural movement.
Shake it might, in fact, Steadicam is supposed to avoid the shake. The
Okay,
handheld will actually
okay,
do that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And that same technique was used in the chase scenes of Siva,
yeah, yeah.
in Adarsh Nagar and other
Correct, correct.
places, right? So coming to Bhoot, Bhoot is
See,
set,
in horror films, more than the music, I believe it is the sound effects which actually make the point.
right,
Sound
right,
and silence.
hmm,
The use of silence and sound.
right.
You know, the problem with silence is when, because people sitting in the theater, they get tense and they start making sounds in silence.
That distracts
Just to
serious,
relieve their own tension.
right?
Yeah.
But actually, that distracts serious movie
Yeah,
watchers.
but also if you look at it, horror films, they come to have fun. I mean, even fear is fun.
Hmm,
Like if a roller coaster rider, I mean roller coaster, rides,
hmm,
or a giant whale, that scares you. But you like to have that fear.
hmm,
You like feeling that fear. Horror films work on that.
right.
See, also if in a crowd you're watching, after every scare there's a burst of laughter because they were caught and they got scared and they get embarrassed and whatever, blah blah.
Right,
You know,
right.
and I also believe in horror films on a genre level, people don't take the story seriously, which explains films like Blair Witch Project and the Paranormal series being such big hits. Absolutely, there's no story.
Hmm.
They will have 10, 12 points where you jump up in fear, and that's enough. Yeah.
So you mentioned Sholay as one of your favorite movies in Indian cinema. What do you call as the best Indian horror movie before you entered this industry?
You see, I mean, horror films are rarely made in India to start with. I would like to believe, as a kid, I was definitely scared in Ramsay Brothers films.
Like most of us.
There's one film called Do Gaz Zameen Ke Neeche.
Mhm.
So that was one of the scariest films I thought I saw. But recently, when I tried watching on YouTube, I was shocked how I would get scared in that film. Yeah, but I think your age and your exposure play a lot of difference in determining what will scare you. Yeah.
But was it The Exorcist that actually caught your attention
Yes,
and
yes.
inspired you?
See, Exorcist I saw when I was roughly, I think, 16, 17.
Okay.
And I couldn't get that film out of my mind for at least 2-3 weeks. It was haunting me. Yeah. And I think it's just the realism more than anything else. Even though I don't understand English at that time. And mostly it is talking, the film. So what I understood and why I got scared is absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk about Bhoot.
Yeah.
Bhoot definitely stands out as one of the best horror movies ever made. So Urmila was again, enjoying a lot of stardom, and she was one of the glamorous actress. You actually showed her in a very de-glam and, in fact, in a very
Yeah.
different form. And then Ajay Devgan. So what went into casting behind Bhoot?
Yeah. See, Ajay Devgan, I wanted to cast him because he's a macho hero. His image is of a macho hero. So to see him scared, I thought will really scare the audience. That was my
he becomes very
idea.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
He actually gets scared.
Yeah. So, I mean, a guy who can beat up people, some 20, 30 people, and is a macho man and comes like a hero, him looking scared, I thought will work very well. And Urmila, because she has very intense eyes, in terms of the expression she can give, yeah, that was the reason.
Right. When you visualize the plot of Booth, which is set in a very urban environment, till then, all the horror movies were set in the outskirts, in a no man's land, in a Booth Bangla sort of thing.
Yeah.
This happens right in the middle of Mumbai, in a very...
So, in the initial stages, I sent a team for a recce in Nainital or somewhere. I wanted to shoot a horror film in like a haunted house on a hill or something like that. That was the most typical ways, right from the black and white days. So a DOP of mine, he suggested instead of that, why don't you do it near the sea? Because sea I never seen in a horror film, in ocean, in Goa or somewhere. So then I thought, if you have to cut away from the clutter, why not do it in the middle of Bombay City? in Oshiwara, where everybody is there, people are there around.
Right.
So because fear is about you being lonely, not physically.
Right.
But in your experiences, you're alone. That is what real fear is about.
Right.
So that is one. And now incidentally, the place where we shot that apartment in that building, you believe it or not, it remained unsold till today.
Oh, wow.
It is just because no one wants to stay there, because thanks to Booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only connection is that there is a graveyard next to that building or something.
But that was matched.
Okay. So it was not deliberate attempt.
No, in fact, in the beginning title, when it comes from that graveyard was created for that shot.
Oh, okay.
It's not a graveyard. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And let's talk about the background music. I think Amit Mohale worked with you on that.
No, Booth was Salim Suleiman.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the brief? What went into the BGM design of Booth?
I mean, I won't say. We went by the scenes. It's not like because The Exorcist has no background score. Very, very little. Not more than 2-3 minutes of score. Booth has quite a lot of music. So we didn't have any reference. We just went by the way it was shot. Yeah.
And you also made Booth 2, which didn't work compared to Booth. So how do you analyze that, and what's your take?
I mean, like anything, I would say. Yeah.
And you continued that series with Foonk. Foonk was also very well made, though it was not a commercial success.
No, it was a very big hit.
Foonk 1?
Yeah.
Okay. But you also made Foonk 2, which was a follow-up.
Yes.
That was not as big as a success.
Correct.
Yeah. So
Foonk 2 was made because the Foonk 1 was a hit only. Otherwise, why would you make it? Yeah.
Right. So you worked with Sudeep Kicha in multiple movies, including Run and Foonk series. So what went into casting, and why did you handpick Sudeep?
I think he's a great actor. I mean, I've seen his 1 or 2 of Kannada films, and I always believe that he's one of the best actors ever in Indian cinema. Yeah.
And the other movie which you are not directing or get directly involved in the plot is Vastu Shastra. And it may not be a massive hit,
Yeah.
but it does
It's done
create.
quite well for the budget at the time it came.
It
Yeah.
was very well made.
Hmm.
What made you produce that? Were you convinced about the plot?
And yeah, because of the genre and that particular director, his name is Saurabh. It was his idea story, which I liked, and that's why I produced it.
And how much do you influence when you're producing a movie in terms of the plot?
I mean, it depends a lot on the director, how much he knows about it. So if I think he's good enough and he can take the call, I will do it. Otherwise, I might step in at the editing stages or some things like that. Yeah.
But what was your contribution to the storyline and the plot of Vastu Shastra?
Vashasa pretty much was his,
Okay.
or Saurabh's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And off late, in the last decade or so, did you enjoy any horror movie?
Not really. I mean, I definitely love the Paranormal series. I also love the Conjuring series. Yeah.
Did you watch one of the most recent Ajay Devgan's movie called Saitan?
No.
So it's a very different take on horror. It's not a
I heard,
usual horror. So you didn't get to see any horror movie made in India or the Indian context in the last decade or so.
No.
And do you have plans to make another?
Yeah,
horrors?
definitely. Yeah, because that is a genre that keep on wanting to return every once in a while.
So in the context of technology taking over, and then there is horror. So how do you see if you actually mix and match technology and horror? How do you wave that into your classic style?
I mean, I think definitely that's a very interesting aspect of technology, especially in the days of artificial intelligence. I think actually I'm working on a script which is near this. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think that brings us to the end of this discussion on RGV's My Take on Horror. Thanks for giving us insights into what went into the genre and the series of movies that you made. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.